edible fruits. Does anybody know what this is? Serviceberry. So serviceberry in the mountains, they call them Serviceberry. Shadbush is another name. Juneberry is another name. It's got a lot of colloquial names. Almalankier is the genus. So this tree grows really well in this area. It tends to like well-draining, it likes really crappy soil. So at my house, I've got like very bad soil, really rocky, not much topsoil. So all I have are wild blueberries, sourwood, white oak, and serviceberry, and mountain laurel. That's like pretty much it, right? Which is really cool, but it's because our soil is really acidic. There's not much of it. It's really rocky, and it's way up on a ridge, and so it's really well draining. So all that to say, this plant can grow really anywhere you want it to, right? It also really likes wet soils. I've planted it in rain gardens, and it just took off. So it's one of those like whatever plants, like, oh, live wherever you want. What's really cool about this plant is that it's got beautiful spring flowers, beautiful fall colors, and then these delicious berries on it that some of these are starting to ripen. And, you know, like these aren't quite ripe, but like you see how these are nice and dark? These are just about perfect. So maybe after the walk is over, come back over here and try one. Unless I could harvest enough to pass them around. I guess I could. Well, that'll take too much time, so we'll just come back to it. Anyways, I think these taste almost as good as blueberries. They're some of my favorites. And what's nice about them is that especially as they mature, the bark has a really nice, like, interesting feature. So even in the winter, you're going to get some nice winter features. So this is a really nice tree. It can take part shade, so it's really nice for situations where you have a tall canopy. A lot of times if someone likes the idea of like a crepe myrtle, but they want something edible, I'll say, well, hey, we should try a serviceberry. It's kind of a good one that obviously doesn't look the same as a crepe myrtle, but it offers a lot of the same type of aesthetic features. So just really wonderful a tree. There's also a bush variety. It's called Almalankier alnifolia, and it only grows about like this. And it takes a while to get going, but once it gets going, it's really productive. There's a whole lot of them at Centennial Park that were planted. And these are all around town. A lot of landscapers plant these. Now that you know this, you'll start noticing it at different big developments, like the Hill Center where Whole Foods is in Green Hills. There's a lot of these. And you know, of course, I once went over there and there was a landscaper like weeding underneath, and I'm like, dude, aren't these tasty? And he's like, you can't eat them. I'm like, you can't eat them, you know? So a lot of landscapers don't even realize they're edible, but one of my favorite fruits. And they don't really get a lot of disease, you know, so it's in the rose family, so the same family as the apple, pear, plum, apricot, peach, rose. Those are all in the rose family. And a lot of those can get some funk and diseases, and so there's like certain techniques you have to do to ensure success with those. But the serviceberry is kind of, you know, it does its thing. This one could probably use some pruning, but it still looks like a beautiful tree, right? So
these are like rose hips, basically, from a rose plant?
Yeah, you could think of it like that. Yep, exactly. It's a different type of rose hip. You know, I like to think of it as like a really small plum, because they have like kind of a plum flavor to me.